Are you one of the many busy professionals working in offices day in and day out? Do you wonder how some people grow their wealth fast, retire early, and play on workdays? Well, you're in luck, because Ginny Bolling hosts this show, Pivot to Prosperity, where she interviews people that can do just that. Play on workdays. Many guests have become financially free. She also interviews people that are on their journey and people that are in support roles, like attorneys, contractors, brokers, and others. Commercial real estate is the common element. She is on a mission to be sure busy professionals know they can own substantial commercial properties too, like apartments, self-storage facilities, and others, and not have to do the work managing them. Passive investing is the key. Syndications are the typical method. Tax write-offs are some of the biggest rewards. Ginny and partners find the deals, build a strong team and business plan, then offer the investment opportunities to passive investors. New episodes are released every Tuesday at 12, so watch for new releases. If you want to get involved, let us know. You need to get pre-qualified to hear about most deals. See the show notes for contact information.
Hello, hello. I'm Ginny Bolling with Pivot to Prosperity, brought to you by Pivotal Real Estate Investments, where we help investors build wealth and income through commercial real estate that also improves communities. And today we have PG Taylor with us. Thank you for coming, PG.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
We just met at a conference, right, in Phoenix.
Yes, ma'am. Race Fest 2025.
Yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And so we wanted to connect, and you can share this way what you've been working on in Nashville.
Yes, ma'am.
That's your home stomping grounds, and that's where you're doing your work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, terrific, terrific. So let me read your bio.
Awesome.
PG is a proud Jamaican entrepreneur. She invests in real estate through land development. As a trailblazer in her family's lineage, she's dedicated to empowering landowners, investors, and city officials alike, ensuring they receive the opportunities they deserve. Beyond her career, she enjoys exploring the world through travel and cherishing moments with loved ones, embodying a balanced life of professional success and personal fulfillment. Her purpose, her mission is to achieve financial freedom, and not just for herself, but also for family, friends, and others too. She's looking to show the endless possibilities beyond jobs, the familiar past that they always have known. So like-minded people are the ones that we're always looking for, right? We want to go into business with people that we all know, like, and trust together, right?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry I butchered that a little.
No, you are fine.
Anyway, so as I read it, what did you think about? Was there anything else that you would want to add?
I think you did a pretty good job of summarizing pretty much who I am and what I'm about.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have gone from one to another discipline and as an investor. So why don't you talk about your journey?
Yes, ma'am. So I started out wholesaling real estate. And for a lot of people, if you don't know what that is, wholesaling is essentially selling the contract of a purchase agreement for a property and then selling it to another investor to for them to either do the flip or build a house. It just depends on what you're selling. So you get on a contract and then you turn around and you sell that same contract to another investor and you make the in between. So that's what wholesaling is. I started out wholesaling, then I went into fix and flip. Just pretty much buying properties, fixing them up and reselling them back on the MLS. And then now I currently am in the land entitlement space. So I get raw land and then I do the full entitlement and create subdivisions out of those entitlements. So yes, ma'am. So so far, that's my journey and that's where I'm at.
So in Nashville, do they have zoning and land use? You have to deal with both levels?
Yes, to an extent. They do have like a future land use map. So you kind of look at the future land use map to get an idea of where your parcel sits and what it's intended for that particular area for the future to come. And then you also have the current zoning. So, depending on the current zoning, if it's already zoned for what you're trying to do, or you'll go through a process called rezoning, which is where you get in front of the council, planning and council, and then you pitch the idea of essentially changing the zoning to whatever zoning it could be. It could be, you want to change the zoning from 1 house to 2 houses or from 1 to 50. So that's kind of the rezoning process. So you'll go through all that, and that's the difference between those two, man.
Great, great. And so reading and interpreting code, and I don't mean computer code, Can be tricky. It depends on how broad they word it, right?
Correct. It can be tricky, but one thing that I learned along the way, there are always people out there that is willing to help you, willing and able to help you. One thing that I suggest to a lot of people who are getting into the land development space, if you don't know, how to find the zoning, or you don't know what the zoning means, you can always pick up the phone and call your municipality zoning department and speak with someone from planning, and they will gladly educate you on what the zoning is, what you can do, and what the future uses are. And so for me, that's actually one way that we kind of help mitigate the risk in the land development space. We kind of get ahead of that. So we'll reach out to council and planning before we even get anything under contract. So if I see a property and I'm starting to talk with that homeowner, the next steps after discussing it with that homeowner is getting on the phone with someone from planning or that council member who's going to pass your rezoning, and kind of seeing their appetite on if they're willing to rezone your property or willing to add more density in that particular area. So that's one of the ways. So you can always call them. They'll answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for saying that. Me being a former government person, I'm usually hearing people complain about the government people. But that's so true. I always say they'll help you. Your
They
tax
will.
dollars pay for that. And if you get a sour grape, call it.
Yes,
Call it
ma'am.
like it
Yes,
is.
ma'am.
But good. All right. So, how did you decide to go into land development?
Well, funny story. I did not plan to get into land development. I actually did not know anything about land development when I got into land development. So it turns out I was actually planning to wholesale a property. And I met with the seller of that property after I went and looked at the duplex. It was a duplex. The numbers just didn't work for me. And while I was there at the property with the seller, I kind of, we started chatting it up. He was telling me kind of, his background and how he has other properties and stuff like that. So kind of inquired a little bit more, and it turns out he wanted to sell the property that his personal home was on. And I was like, well, let's take a look at that. Maybe I can do something with that. He's, retired, and he actually wanted to move and downsize. So I went ahead, took a look at his property, and I was like, okay, this is a 4.5 acre lot. I don't know what I can do with it yet, but maybe I can do something with it. So kind of the same process after that, I went down to zoning and I went and spoke to them and kind of got some information. And then the next steps that I did was kind of put it on a contract. And then I learned every step of the way after that until I kind of got somebody to help me at a certain point. So that's
Yeah.
how I ended up in land development.
So, okay, but so you didn't have to do the infrastructure. You platted lots is what you did?
Yes, ma'am. So what I did was, after getting the property under contract, and I went ahead and I spoke to the council and planning and got an idea of what I need to do. After that, my next step was, and I kind of actually butchered this in the beginning, and I skipped a couple steps, and it was a lesson well learned and money well spent to learn that lesson. But I kind of skipped a couple steps. I went ahead and jumped right in and kind of went ahead and got a concept plan and submitted that concept plan to the city, when I should have backed it up and then actually did some site studies first, like so for, like, let's just say surveys, and then also endangered species, or an environmental geotech. Those are some of the first steps that you should have did first to kind of make sure that your lot is in fact buildable, or if there's any endangered species on your site, or what you can actually do with that parcel. You don't want to be hit with any surprises later on down the road after you've spent a whole bunch of money. So those should have been my first step. But because I skipped those steps and I went straight to an engineer, I got a lot approved, but I had to end up starting all over somewhat because I did not do those first steps early on. And then after I kind of went back, reassessed, the first plans that I had approved, they were rocks all along the road of where I wanted to put my sewer. And if you know anything about infrastructure or know anything about real estate, land development, you can't rock, you can blast it, but then you're gonna have to dig really low to get below that rock to put sewer lines. You don't want to do that. That's going to cost you a lot of money. So getting a geotech done would have helped me figure that out, to know where to actually plant my roads around those rock areas. So some of those are some faulty issues that kind of came up in the beginning that I skipped over, and I did not know from just being uneducated in that field. But I learned very quickly after that of getting with somebody who knew what they were doing, and kind of helped guide me along the way after that.
Good, good. Yeah, such a big lesson too, and can be very expensive.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us what happened after you got the well, so at what point did you come up with an exit strategy? Where did you think you were going to build these homes or
So I had a lot of ideas and a lot of things running through my head. So back to, me saying that I was transitioning and I was fixing and flipping houses at the time. I actually was flipping a house the same time that I was doing this land deal. So what turned into me asking for help was I was running out of money. So I was running out of money very quickly because I was using my own personal funds to do these deals. So I was spending my money on the survey. I was spending my money with the engineer company, and I was also spending my money on the flip. And, as you know, with the flip, I was using hard money. So you're not going to get your drawback until you kind of get to a certain part of the project to get some of your money back that you put in there. And I was just windling. I was like, hey, you know what? I got this far in the project. I needed some help at this point, either someone with the capital to come in or someone who is experienced and have done land development deals prior before. So I have a mentor that I actually met when I first started real estate. And, throughout the years, we kept in contact. He's, been very knowledgeable throughout my whole years of real estate. And I did not know who I can personally trust to call and kind of tell them my situation and who I can ask for money. So, I never asked anyone, hey, outside of a hard money lender, I never asked anyone, hey, can I get some money to invest in this possibility? So and like I said, my business was still being built up and I was still putting it out there to have people know what I'm doing, to want to trust to lend me any money for any deals. So the only person I knew to call was my mentor. And I picked up the phone and I gave him a call and I was like, hey, and I knew he was already currently doing land developments and he has built a couple houses. So I was like, hey, this is my situation. This is where I'm at and I'm running out of money and I need some help. And I literally said it exactly like that. I was like, I don't know how else to explain it to you, but I'm running out of money. I need some help now because I have to, I have to finalize this deal. I'm not somebody who want to get something on a contract and then, backing out because, I couldn't fulfill the deal. I got it on a contract because I believe that I could fulfill the deal. So, and it being not a reason of my own, personal reasons of why I couldn't fulfill it. So after that, my mentor kind of gave me some pointers. He told me, hey, if you can get this deal to about, 3/4 of the way of the project, I mean, not 3/4, sorry, about a quarter of the way of the project, or a little bit more after that, then I can kind of step in and help you from that point on. So he gave me some insights. He said, hey, you didn't do any of this geotech, you didn't do any of this engineering, go back and do all of that. And let's start from there. So I went ahead, went and got that done, paid for all that stuff. The rezoning had went through at this point. So the rezoning for the actual PRD got approved. So now, even though my plans were approved and they weren't the perfect plans, we could have just went ahead and amended that and changed it. So that's exactly what we did. So got it through to that portion. And then I gave him a call back. I said, hey man, you told me to do X, Y, and Z. And I went ahead and I did X, Y, and Z. And I need your help now because I can't move anymore on this project and I have to finish my flip, So he went ahead, picked up the project from that point on, and he kind of showed me the whole step of the way. And I was able to sit at the table and sit in with the engineers. I ended up changing engineers because one thing that I've learned and that I've took with me through that whole learning experience on my first deal was that your engineer is going to make or break your deals. If you have an engineer that either doesn't know the location in the area or just may not be as knowledgeable, that could hurt your deal a lot. And for me, my first engineer, I wouldn't say he was bad, but he just wasn't well versed of getting the deal done how it should be done. So that kind of cost me some cash, and it cost us having to delay the time frame of getting that deal closed out. So a lot of lessons learned on that deal. So after we kind of got the plans and the construction drawings and everything done, after that, then we turned around, and my mentor at the time, like I said, he was building houses and he was doing subdivisions, and he thought, hey, I got this. It's better to build a subdivision in one place, versus building houses all over the places. So he had a subdivision, and then he had a buyer come in, a national builder, make an offer on his subdivision. He's like, it's not for sale. And then he got the offer and he's like, oh yeah, it's definitely for sale. So he sold 2 subdivisions to 2 national builders in Dixon, Tennessee. And then so by the time I got my deal to him, he was like, hey, your buyer needs to be a national builder because they're going to buy this entire subdivision and you don't have to find a local builder to try to take this down. The national buyers, they're backed by Wall Street. They have the cash and they are going to fund this deal, you know, especially if they're putting a down payment down. Somebody's not going to walk away from $1 million down, you know, versus, you know, $5,000. So they have more money and time invested into making that deal happen. So when he told me that, I knew who our buyers were and we were on the hunt. We found he also had a lot of good connections with some of the builders and already. So he connected us with Goodall, had a conversation with them and we sold the deal.
To Goodall.
Yes, ma'am. To Goodall.
Goodall Builders is what?
Yes.
Yeah. Terrific. Yes, well, so yeah, there's a lot to unpack with what all you just ran through. So for instance, are you saying that you got the lots all laid out and approved with the zoning change? Did they make you go that far? And then
yes.
did you have to redesign it based
yes,
on
ma'am.
the infrastructure really needed to go, right?
Yes, ma'am. So kind of backing it up to what I said, where I jumped ahead and I skipped a couple steps and getting that concept plan done with the engineer. That engineer didn't inform me, well, hey, maybe you should do X, Y, and Z first, you know, doing the geotech and all that type of stuff first. He didn't advise me to do any of that. And I was, like I said, I was new, so I didn't know to do any of that. So he did the concept plan without any of that study. And he just went off of that and created these plots on the land. And then I did get that plot approved. So when my mentor kind of took over the project from that point, and, you know, he looked over all the studies after I did them, he was like, hey, I mean, there's a lot of rock right here, you know, and that's going to be a lot to blast through. And we're already kind of in a somewhat neighborhood. So, you know, might not make sense or work or cost more money. So he went back and had to amend it and say, hey, let's shift this. And we actually changed the entire design completely and say, hey, the roads can't be here. We need to, you know, change it up to make it make sense. And that's what we had to do in that frame.
Big learning lesson. How much do you think that cost you?
Oh man, $25,000.
That's
I won't forget.
all? That's not too bad.
It was $25,000 too much for me at the time. So it was a 25,000 learning lesson for sure. And we ended up starting all the way over. And the new cost to all the civil with the engineer was 80,000 after that. So could have saved on that 80,000 if I had done it right the first time.
So it wouldn't have been that high, right?
It would not have. So it was 25,000 plus the additional $80,000. So I had already spent 25,000 leading up to before I partnered with my mentor.
So, well, part of the 80, you were going to have to spend some of that.
Yeah, yes. Original price that I got quoted was, I want to say $56,000. And then by the time that we were done, after switching engineer, that engineer charged us about 80,000. And then, you know, not including my 25 that I had already spent with the first engineer.
So about $50,000 lesson.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That sounds more like what I was thinking if you had to yeah. But and what about trees? Did you have a bunch of trees that you had to?
We did actually. That lot did have a lot of trees. So it was really good trees at that actually. So on that project, we plan to take the trees out and then realign them along the property line. And Goodall liked that idea as well, to save the trees. And then also they didn't have to go out and buy so much additional trees.
So at least you're already in touch with your end buyer. Yeah, because it's terrible to take all those out and then have to replat.
Right. So when we went ahead and started the amendment and we were going through the project, we actually started conversations with the end buyer at that point. So when we're doing the replatting, we actually made the product to fit what type of product that they wanted. So as far as like the dimension goes, so if they wanted a 22 by 50, if I'm not mistaken, that was the dimension, 22 by 50 townhome product. And we actually just made them to acquire those. So yes.
Gotcha.
So we started out with 60 homes, and then with the original engineer that I had, and then by the time that I got around to another engineer, we were down to 43. But the site laid way much better. It wasn't too cluttered, and it was looks much better aesthetically as well. So
Something you can be proud of, right?
yes, ma'am. It's not always about the quantity either. So just because you could fit 60 homes on there doesn't mean that you should fit 60 homes on there either. So I learned that lesson as well.
So do you mind sharing what you bought the land for and then what you had in it and what your final sale price was?
Yeah, sure thing. So we bought the land for 900,000. And that price was because I was also uneducated. So things that I learned, now, looking back at it, I'm like, man, there were so many mess up, but we still, I still made some money on my first deal at that. So we bought it for 900,000 because I was uneducated. I just gave the seller whatever he said he wanted. And then we sold it for 1.560.
And how much did you have to put in it?
And I spent the $25,000. So my mentor bought the remaining cash on the deal.
Oh, okay.
Remaining
And then you had
capital
to split the deal.
investment.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And I have no problem sharing how much I made on that deal. So on my first deal, I made 25% of that. So I made roughly about 135,000 minus my 25K.
135,000, you said?
Yes, ma'am. And to me, that was pretty dang good for first land deal, super small deal, and 25% of something. My mentor bought the remaining of the cash. And I was very happy of making 25% of something than, 100% of nothing. And then also to have learned and to gain that knowledge as well. Because, I'm saying, I would have had to probably pay for that knowledge or find somebody who was doing it, who was willing to show me the game. So I was grateful that I was able to even be able to sit at the table. And now, couple deals later, I'm able to sit and probably tell somebody else how to do it from start to finish. So I was very
Yeah, it works. Yeah, and it reinforces what we learn when we teach, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's great. So you're into another one now, are you? Or
Yes, ma'am. I'm in a couple right now, actually.
okay, yeah.
So I'm in a couple deals right now. We have, and I'm also partnering with my mentor on this one as well. We have one in Dixon, Tennessee, that we're doing 164 units of single family homes. And then we have a master plan community that is coming in Lebanon, Tennessee. That's going to be a super big project. We have over 180 acres to develop. So
Oh, gosh, yeah.
that'll be really good.
You'll have a commercial center?
Yes, ma'am. All commercial out parcels on the main street, and then everything else behind is residential.
You'll learn a lot on that.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
that'd be cool. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
So back in the day when I was doing the appraisal work for the savings and loan crisis, during those days, we'd have all these pods, there'd be a commercial center most of the time. This is in South Florida, and then they'd have acreage and pods that were going to be subdivisions all around, and different builders would buy the whole pod. And yep. So
that's something similar to what we're planning to do on that one.
yeah, very good. Yeah, you'll learn a lot. And do you have to go through a development of regional impact approval too, some higher up on a state level?
So right now, no. So far right now, no, but I'm assuming maybe because we're doing a lot of offsite improvement infrastructure. So we're doing a lot of improvement on their sewer system and their water lines all the way up and down that road. So I'm sure that it's going to get into a lot of deeper stuff that, I'm excited to see how that comes to life.
That's great. And so you're ending up negotiating pretty much with the building and zoning officials, right?
Yes, ma'am. So that particular corridor, they have an overlay for their future land use, and you have to do commercial to get that residential. But because we are doing, they don't have a lot of commercial in that area. So that's probably one of the reasons why they're allowing that as well, to give us a density that we want, is because they don't have a lot of commercial and they want to update all their sewer and everything along that line. So that's one of the major reasons why they're willing to give and take, and making sure that deal comes to life as well.
Well, that's such a key part of what you may or may not realize you can negotiate with these government officials, because, and then there's the maintenance piece.
Yep.
You don't want to have to maintain some stuff, like especially retention, if you can outfall to it,
Right.
things like that, it's different.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
yeah. So I'm sure you're learning a ton. That's so
Yeah.
cool. And so what's the other one that's the two. Okay. And
Yeah.
there, did you say Lebanon's in Tennessee?
Yes, ma'am. So Lebanon, Tennessee, roughly maybe about 45 minutes from Nashville. Not
Oh,
far.
okay. Okay. Very cool. All right. So you're rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling.
Yeah. So are you looking for people to join you as passive investors, or are you looking for partners that would be active partners, or what?
Yes, ma'am. So outside of those deals, I'm partnering with those deals with my mentor. But outside of that, I'm also doing smaller deals on my own. So I do have other deals that I would be open to bringing investors along with me for the journey, especially investors who want to get that passive income, but may not know, anything about land development or real estate, but want to be able to have their money make some money for them as well. So I'm definitely always looking for somebody who wants to come a part of the journey if they have some cash in the side and it's not doing anything for them, or even partners as well if we're a good fit for each other. So I do
Right.
appreciate
Very
that if
important.
we're a good fit for each other.
Right. And more people are realizing that they don't have to just invest in the stock market or those few things, that they
Yes,
can
ma'am.
use money for real estate.
Yes, ma'am.
Fortunately, it's a big deal.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Well, so let me ask you the big question. Is there a pivotal person or event that's brought you to where you are now or pushing you to a certain point in your life?
Yes, ma'am. I want to give a shout out to my mentor. I should say mentors because they are one company, but it's two people. So I know you asked for one, but I'm going to give you two because I
That's
think these
fine.
people was a big change in my life and where I am today. Their name is Brandon Cobb and Alex Sadoff. So Brandon Cobb, he's actually part of Raise Masters, and he is a boss when it comes to raising money, from what I know. And Alex is his business partner. He knows so much knowledge about the construction space, the land engineering space. He's full of knowledge, and them two together has helped me tremendously, not just on my deals, but just knowledge altogether. They always want to see me be great and do good and go far. And they're always encouraging me to do better in my life. And they always set me up for success every chance they get. And they don't make me feel like, because I brought the deal that I'm just, working for them with the deal, but they make me feel like I'm a true partner, that I bring something to the table, and I'm very much grateful for them. So I think that anyone who gets in contact with them definitely learns something and gets some type of value from them. So I want to shout them out.
Brandon's a great guy. I haven't had him on the show, so this is terrific. So do you want to tell him you nominated him or you want me to?
I want you to tell him because I
Okay.
want I want to hear his excitement when you tell him. So let me
Okay.
know how that goes.
I will. And so great. I'm so pleased to hear that that's who it is, because I think he's the one that runs the monthly calls too at Race Masters.
Brandon Cobb was the one who told me to go to Raise Masters. So I was telling him, hey, Brandon, like I love doing deals with you guys, but I want to start, you know, bringing in some other investors on my deals, and he was like, hey, the first place that I think that you should start is Raise Masters. And he encouraged me to go. And after I had that, because I have monthly calls with Brandon as well. And after I got off that monthly call with him, the first thing I did was went and paid for that ticket to go to Raise Masters. If Brandon told me do it, I'm doing it.
Good. All right. Glad to hear it. Well, fantastic. So tell people how they can reach you.
Awesome. Yes, you guys can reach me on social media. I am on Instagram under PG_buys_houses. So that's PG_buys_houses. You can also look me up on Facebook as PG Taylor or on LinkedIn as my full name, Petergaye Taylor, spelled Petergaye, and last name Taylor. I'm on those social medias very heavily. And if you want to check out my website, it is pgtaylorrei.com. And if you have some land deals or you want to be a part of any one of these land deals and you have some cash sitting on the side and you want to take part and see a subdivision come to life, definitely reach out to me. I was happy to get on a call with you and explain the projects, show you how they, how they start from start to finish, and love to get you part of it. So yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, and we'll put all that into the show notes and give you a chance to proof them and whatnot. So
Awesome.
very good. So glad to have you on, and that you nominated Brandon. That's so cool.
Thank you so much for having me once again. And it was a pleasure. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be on your show. Very grateful for the opportunity to have met you as well. And I want to say this, that I took action after Raise Fest, but out of everyone that I've met, you were probably one of the first person that reached out to me on when we were leaving. You told me to hit you up on the podcast, but also just to connect. And before I did that, you hit me up, and I'm very grateful for that you remembered me and that you reached out to me. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Very good.
Awesome.
Okay. You take care.
You as well.